Oops, I didn't mean to
and
stop the previous recording.
And I'm learning about this stuff, and it's starting to really bother me. Because, see, I grew up in a very patriotic family, where my grandfathers have fought in every war this country's ever had. One of my grandfathers stood at Lexington and Concord when the first shot was fired. I have grandfathers in the Civil War, and the Revolutionary War, and World War I, and World War II, and Korea, and my brother in Vietnam. I was too old. My brother and I are bookends. I mean, I was too young. My brother and I are bookends. There were 6 girls in the middle. Okay. And even my son was in the United States Navy, and he won 2 medals and a letter from the president. My family's always been patriotic, and none of us knew when we were growing up this information. It was all kept hidden and subverted from us. Especially in the law. How many people had a law class, kindergarten through 12th grade? Really? Yeah, I know, it wasn't a law class. Yeah, no, it really wasn't. Everything we were taught in history, out of the history books, was a lie, was wrong. I had a history professor in one of my classes like this. It was here in Florida, by the way. I had about 300 people in the room. And he argued with me. He had been a high school history teacher for almost 20 years. And then he was a college history professor for about 8 years. And he sat in one of my classes just like this, and he started arguing with me about the history. And I says, have you ever written or read a history book, textbook, prior to 1900? And he said, no. I said, do you know how hard they are to find? And he said, no, I'm sure I could find one though. I said, please do. You go find them. How about we set a date? Would 6 weeks be enough? We set a date, you call me in 6 weeks, tell me if you found any high school history books that were written before 1900. And he said, okay. And literally, he put it on his calendar, and 6 weeks later, he called me back and said, David, I can't find any. I said, keep looking. I'll give you another 6 weeks. He called me back and says, I can't find any. I've searched every bookstore in my town. I've searched online, and I can't find any. And then in August, he called me up, and he says, hey, I was up at a family reunion up in the Northeast, and I was walking the dog, and I walked past a garage sale, and there was a box of old books, and I found 2 history books that were written prior to 1900. And I said, that's awesome. Have you read them? He said, yes. I said, what'd you learn? He said, I learned that everything I've been teaching my entire career has been a lie. And I said, that's right. That's right. The only way you can learn true history is to go back in time yourself, and it's best to learn from letters and journals from people who have lived during the time and see what they had to say to their family and their friends. And then you'll learn true history. And he learned a lot of things in those 2 history books that he had no idea of. And see, this nation's had periods of time where we've had book burning parties. And they've hauled books out of the schools and burnt them in the parking lots. And they've done that several times throughout our history. And that is how history is rewritten. History is written by the victor, the the political party that happened to have won, and they outlawed certain books, and they burned them, and they rewrote history, and it moved on. And one of the biggest cases was 1951. In 1951, the U.S. government sent a lady out who was an incredible teacher, a black woman, and sent her around to all the states to try and get the states to sign on to centralized education. So that a family, this is the excuse I use, so that a family living in California, the husband could change jobs and they up and move to New York City right in the middle of the school year, and the child won't miss a beat because they'll have the same books and the same tests and the same curriculum in New York as they do in California. And they sold the states on this, along with government funding to fund education. And they sold those states on this, and finally, in April 11th, I think it was, 1951, the last state signed off. And this school teacher lady, I'm going to make you guys look up her name. I know her name. Was put in place as the head of the Department of Education. And 49 days later, the president got rid of her and put Nelson Aldrich Rockefeller in place. Now, Nelson, in his speech, when he was put into place as the head of the Department of Education in 1951, his speech was kind of interesting. In fact, it made history. They asked Nelson how much money he had made last year. Now, this would have been 1950. How much money did Nelson Aldrich Rockefeller, the grandson of one of the most prominent banking families in America, two of the most prominent banking families in America, the Aldriches and the Rockefellers, Nelson Aldrich Rockefeller, he said he made $140 million in personal income in 1950. You guys know how much it cost to buy a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house back then? How much? About $1,500.
Wow.
About the average home. And he made $140 million. Now, mind you, he's taking a job position that paid $35,000 a year. A government job that paid $35,000 a year. So the reporters asked him, Nelson, why would you take a job position that only pays $35,000 a year then? And he says, because I consider it the most important job in all of America. And the flash bulbs went off, and the reporters raised their hands, and the reporter said, why do you consider it more important than the President of the United States' position, or the Vice President's position, or the Secretary of State's position? And he says, because if you give me 1 decade, I'll change the minds and therefore the direction of the world. It's the most influential position is to teach our kids what they want us to learn. They asked him how much he paid in taxes, and he reached in his pocket and he grabbed an Indian head penny and he flicked it into the reporter's crowd. And he said, not 1 red cent. And that little slogan became famous. Not 1 red cent. He might have been being a little racist, I don't know. So, understand, everything you've learned in school for generations since is a lie. Because within 8 years, he had changed every book and every teacher in schools to teach a different curriculum, a curriculum of lies. 1975, and 1982, very important years. In 1982, our justice system quit following the Constitution of the United States. And it was privatized. I want you to understand that. One of our good American state nationals had a lawsuit up in Oregon, and she found the Oregon Department of Justice, not only did it have a Dun and Bradstreet number and was a private for-profit corporation, but it had 1,600 subsidiary corporations underneath it. Every courthouse in the state of Oregon had a Dun and Bradstreet number and was a private for-profit corporation. Every county has between 240 and 270 private for-profit corporations inside that county, right down to the dog catcher. Not one of them is actual government. And the 35-page brief I just wrote has all of the court cases showing that and proving that, where it's been decided in courts all across this nation, all the way up to the Supreme Court, that we have no government. None. Even Bill Clinton said that in an executive order when he was president. He said we have no government in this country. Everything's for sale. Every bridge, every highway, every building, every corporation. You want to buy your own county? Go ahead. If you got enough money, those corporations are for sale. They're private for-profit corporations, all with Dun and Bradstreet numbers, all acting and pretending to be government under color of law, and anything colorable is a fallacy, and it's also a felony. Look it up. I find them all the time, every day. Every day I'm looking up Dun and Bradstreet numbers. Tressa, how many Dun and Bradstreet numbers did you look up for me the other day? Just for the Texas Department of Corrections, Criminal Justice. Texas Department of Criminal Justice has 6 different corporations that make up the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. And she found them all for me. Just because I didn't have time, I asked her to do it. I'll tell you something, we've looked up tens of thousands of them. What is the name of your country? Yeah, I don't care who answers, go ahead. Germany? I love you. That's where the Straits come from, by the way. Thank you for saying that. That's my country too. The White House Office Inc. If you look that up on Dun & Bradstreet, get his Dun & Bradstreet number, it'll show Joe R. Biden as the agent of service for the corporation and where its location is. And at the bottom, onto the Dun & Bradstreet, it'll show there's over 60,000 subsidiary corporations underneath it, like the state of Florida, like the 3,144 counties, like all their corporations, approximately 240 to 270 corporations in each county. The state, it'll show all the agencies of government. The FBI is a corporation, the CIA is a corporation. The IRS is a corporation, and it's not even an American corporation. The IRS has no license to do business in any state. None. Zero. I've got a letter from the Secretary of State's office of Texas on her letterhead, and she did an exhaustive search for a license for the Internal Revenue Service to do business in the state of Texas, and she can't find one. And she certified it with her seal. How many people in Texas pay taxes to the Internal Revenue Service? Do you know that's a business contract, right? Sworn under the pains and penalties of perjury by voluntary compliance. You got to volunteer for that shit. We're going to go in the IRS a little bit later. So anybody, can you all name these 4 documents? Exactly right. Which Constitution? That's right. Not the Constitution of the United States, like it's written in all these books that, you know, every one of these I pick up. This is a fabulous written book, but it's got the wrong Constitution in it. The United States Code even says it's the wrong Constitution. Why? It's the corporate Constitution. I can't find one of these little books in print anywhere that has the right Constitution in it. Yeah, this has it. You know how I know? My grandfather's signature's on it. Let me tell you something. This are the laws that all United States laws are to be based off of. Not this one. And it says that in the United States Code. The Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, the Ordinance of 1787, which is better known as the Northwest Ordinance, and the first Constitution for the United States of America, which has the 13th Tona Amendment in it. And the 13th Tona Amendment was written so that lawyers who are members of the British Accreditation Registry, that's called the bar, those British soldiers left on these shores to provide the free men and women of America with essential governmental services, lawyers, attorneys, was the legal definition of the word attorney. An actor to a turn. The legal definition of an actor is somebody who gets up on stage and lies convincingly enough to make you believe in the character and the plot, therefore a liar. And to a turn is to steal from one and turn over to another, therefore a thief. So by the very definition of their profession, they're liars and thieves. And if you don't believe me, one of the ladies' names that Bonnie just gave me has spent over $150,000 to an attorney to turn over all of her property and her body into prison. See, because they don't put the man or woman in prison. There is no men and women in prison. None. There is only persons, entities, yous. Do you know what a you is? Hey, you. Who am I speaking to? Hey, you. They never charge the man or the woman. They never say David Strait owes $2,500. They say David Strait, you owe $2,500. They never say David Strait is charged with a crime. They say David Strait, you are charged with a crime. Everything they do is to you. And why is that? Well, let's look at this for a minute. See, I am I. It's the great I am principle in the Bible. God is the great I am. And I am I. And when the judge looks at me and says, hey, you, David Lester Straight, I turn around. And he goes, what are you doing? I'm looking for you, Your Honor. Are you you? Because I ain't. He likes that language. I ain't. I ain't you. See, a police officer creates a cause of action. A cause of action. I want you to write this down. It's important.
Hey, Mary.
This is how we're going to save America right here. I'm going to tell you how.
I'm
Right
today
here,
I'm attending
how
an
important
online
this is.
Seminar all weekend.
And we all have to know it. And we have to be able to rattle it off our brain.
Yeah.
And we should be telling everyone in government this.
How are you?
And I'll tell you why. Because it exposes all the fraud. A police officer creates a cause of action.
Well, that's all right. I'm glad you sound good.
They
You
take
sound,
you
rested and
out of
love
it.
you back, and yeah.
All of us. And it becomes a case.
Well, I'll call you tonight, dear.
Number.
When it's over. All right. Bye. Bye.
They take us out of it. The men and the women. They take us all out. And that cause of action becomes a case. That case is attached to CUSIP. And a CUSIP number is an investment control number regulated by the Securities Exchange Commission. And a bank is a court. A court equals a bank. A judge is a banker. Look it up in a legal dictionary, guys. The ones that know, know. A court is a bank, a judge is a banker, and a bank is in the business of creating a security and nothing else. That's what's on a corporate charter of a bank. Banks are in the business of creating a security and nothing else. So the biggest bank in town, the courthouse, by an officer or agent of government creating a cause of action, taking you out of it, creates a case number, which creates a CUSIP number, which creates a bond. When you're found guilty of a crime, what do? They indict you, right? An indictment is a true bill, better known as an invoice. An indictment's a bill. That help you guys? Okay, an indictment is a bill. How many people bother to say, well, how much is the bill? Let's settle that matter today. Nobody does. And the reason they don't put the amount on the bill is it would scare the holy crap out of you. It'd be like going into a hamburger shop, ordering a hamburger, and having it come out to be $15,000, not $15. It would scare us. We're not going to pay $15,000 for a burger. And that's why they don't show you what the penal sum of the bill is. Okay? So they created an indictment, which is a bill. You don't bother to say how much is the bill, so they bring you up on charges. Oh, that's invoice number 2. Invoice number 1. That's your past due notice. Right? Past due. What happens if you don't say, well, how much is the charges? Let's settle this matter today. You didn't pay the bill here and you didn't pay the bill here. Well, now they're going to ask you to bond. That's your third notice. Right? The police officer coming to your door to create the cause of action, that was your put on notice that they were going to charge you. Then they did an indictment, then they brought you up on charges, then they asked you to bond, and if you can't pay the bond, then your body is held as surety while they collect from your trust. Now, these are all banking terms. All crimes are commerce. All crimes, even murder, is commerce. You create a cause of action. I'm going to get to that. That creates a case. The case number is a CUSIP. The CUSIP is a bond in the amount they want to profit from you. That is sold out the back door of the courthouse at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the evening through their International Securities Identification Number. It used to be called the ISLIN number. We used to call it ISLIN number. That's their international securities license. And it's usually sold to a broker from Bear Stearns who shows up at the courthouse on his way home from his office. And he just swings by every day and collects all the bonds. And then when he gets to his office the next morning, he sells them on Wall Street. And he places those bonds into muni bond funds, municipal bond funds, and prison bond funds. Well, then it becomes an incentive for the judges to put you in prison so the prisons do well, so the bond funds do better. And it becomes a big racket of RICO, racketeering. And it's racketeering because they're using a judge, a county clerk, a recorder, a police officer, an agent of government, and various other departments in their racketeering scheme, their mafia group. And the cops don't know this. That's why they hire low IQ bullet sponges. Somebody who'll follow orders. Ex-Army. That was a Navy joke, you guys. For those that were, anybody in the Army? Probably wouldn't admit it now. Anyway. No. And this is how they make money. How much money do they make? These small bonds are made in everything you do. You got a driver's license in your pocket? Thank you. Who does? That's kind of wimpy. I didn't see you go. Okay. You got a driver's license in your pocket. You walked into a DMV of some form or another, and you got a driver's license. Your driver's license number is a CUSIP number. When you signed your signature, they created a bond for $10,000 on the average per state driver's license. $10,000 bond. And every year you hold the license in your pocket is a brand new $10,000 bond to the state. And the average driver with a driver's license registers 2.1 cars. We're going to round it down to 2. 2 cars. You go register it, it's a CUSIP number. It's a bond. They get the manufacturer's certificate of origin, which is a bond with a bond number on it. And the state DMV issues another $10,000 bond on your vehicle, and every year you have your vehicle registered with the state. Not only do you not own it, because you don't have the superior title, you gave that away for a certificate of title. Not only do you not own it, But they just created a $10,000 bond per year for every year that car is on the road. Times 2, that's 20 grand, plus your driver's license, that's 30 grand, because the average driver walked into a DMV. They made 30 grand a year for every year you're residing in that state temporarily to do business, because that's the definition of resident, someone there temporarily to do business. So now you're operating in commerce. That's why you're operating a motor vehicle. And your motor vehicles and your driver's license is bonded, so the state makes 30 grand just because you hold it in your pocket. And you operate your motor vehicle, even if you're not in commerce. Wall Street, buying and selling bonds. The bond market is 10,000 times larger than the stock market. 10,000 times larger. I know a bond trader that trades $3 trillion in bonds a day. 3 trillion. At 1/4% commission, he never has to count his money. Do you understand that? That's how big the bond market is. This whole world out here functions on the bond market. Look at how many cars are in this parking lot. There's 25 million licensed drivers in Texas. 25 million times 30,000 is what? A lot. And that's just the Department of Public Safety in Texas. That's their DMV. Figure it out. Why is government so big and bloated? The bond market. This is how we expose all of government for doing wrong. All of it. None of it is legitimate to the people. The only government on this planet is you and me. And every state constitution says that. Article 1, Section 1, Oregon's state constitution. I mean, start looking them up. Anybody got their Florida state constitution pulled up? I got one in here somewhere. Yeah, heck, I'm not going to find it right now. Read it. Look it up. It says the people are government. And the people can alter, reform, or abolish as they think expedient and proper. People say, David, are you anti-government? No, I'm not. I'm all for government. We need government to provide us with 19 essential governmental services that we can't provide for ourselves. Like protection from foreign invaders is a big one. And these are the things we agreed to in the Constitution, and I agreed to help pay for those. Right, except it's going to the Crown.
If I have to reschedule, it'll be
Sorry,
2
that
more
was
months,
supposed to be
so,
on.
right?
More than that, actually. To be honest with you,
You understand, I am for paying
Oh,
taxes.
was he going to do an EKG or anything? Or,
Just
you
not
know?
the way we're doing it. The proper way is like I pay for taxes all my way here because we drove. Every time I stopped at a gas station, I paid taxes. I paid at the pump, and that helped fix the roads and bridges along the way.
Usually it works well for me.
Yeah,
Obviously the
it
fault
does.
is mine.
And there's more than enough collected at the pumps to fix the roads and bridges, unless the counties are stealing the tax money. And in Texas, the counties steal a lot of road money. You know how you know? Because I can lay a 2x4 and a level across it, and I've seen a 20-inch difference in the pavement.
Okay, I'm going to just ask for
In Oregon, our gravel roads are better than Texas paved roads in the county. They are. There's a couple of Oregonians in the room. So, anyway, there is a big reason I'm trying to hammer this into you. Because we're at a time in our nation's history right now that is unlike any time we've ever been in.
This month?
We're at a time where the people are waking up faster than they've ever woke up before. And there's so many of us now that are awake, not woke,
Thank you, Jesus, and everything worked out.
that are awake,
Thank you.
that we can actually change the outcome however we want to change it. We have the ability if you'll just put action in. If you start putting your words down and you put those words into action, we can change this nation right now. And we've never been in a position like this in all of our nation's history since 1775. Now we can do it. And the whole world is watching. And those countries are rising up. Look at Italy and France and Germany and England and many, many, many other nations and how their people are rising up. When they go to protest something, 1 million people show up to protest. We go protest something. I saw some guys holding signs on the street corner protesting. There was 20 people there. Like, that's not effective, guys. All these big rallies President Trump holds, those are wonderful. They're wonderful for the rah-rah, but there's no action ever performed by those people afterwards.
Wow.
That's because they're hitting the wrong target. The first thing you learn in war is who the hell the enemy is, and what beaches they're fighting on, and what weapons they have. Do you know who our enemy is? The banks and their soldiers. The lawyers are the soldiers for the bankers. They're the one that writes every contract, every invoice, every form, every court case. They run the country for them. Who is the pillar of the banks? The Crown, the monarchies of Great Britain, Westminster, the Crown, the bankers, they're in charge. They've controlled the money until now, and they are dying, and we're killing them. Do you understand? We're killing off the banks. 177 Rothschild's banks, national banks, have been destroyed. And that's the last 2 months. And we just started in March, and they're gone. She asked me how we did it. Because we put the royal families that own all the gold and silver together and got them to agree. That took us 30 years. And then we can take that with the guy who's assigned with the badge to open the trusts that are in every bank, and we can open the deposit money. The deposit money that set up everything. Everybody thinks fiat currency is not backed by gold and silver. Well, No, it's not. But the bank is. And in every bank in the world, including the Pentagon, which is a bank, has an account that's a spiritual account that is from the descendants of Solomon, that is the royal families. When I say royal, I don't mean kings and queens of England, although that is one of the royal families, but there's many. And when we get them to all agree, which we did, and then we put the right man in place, he can go into the terminals, the S7 terminals, and he can start releasing deposit money for humanitarian purposes. And for every deposit dollar, do you go into a bank and make a deposit or a posit? Right there shows you you're dealing with negative money. Okay, I make deposits. Posits. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. But most people don't know how to do that. That's like a level 20 class. Okay? Most people go get a mortgage, a death pledge to buy a house. Why don't you walk in there with your signature and a promissory note, give the bank 10%, 10 points, have them trade on the promissory note for 90 days, purchase the house, and then hand you your promissory note back so that you can sign it off for credit on your trust and mail it to the Treasury. I bet you do. See, that's why there's great big Wells Fargo banks in town where there's no ATMs. And then there's a whole bunch of Wells Fargo branches. The branches are for the debtors, the decedents' accounts. The living people go into the other bank. There's a bank for the living and a bank for the dead. You guys got to quit being dead. I knew you would sometime this weekend. You might as well start now. No. Everybody that's smart is going to reject the digital currency. We've been rejecting it and rejecting it and rejecting it. And it will get rejected. Sure, they got digital currency. They got 6,000 of them. Most of them aren't backed by anything. They're as fiat as a fiat dollar. What's a fiat dollar look like? What's it say at the top? It says Federal Reserve note. What is a note? It's a debenture. It's a debt. And you get paid in these, don't you? You pay taxes on a debt? I don't know about you, but you can't pay tax on a debt. Even the IRS will tell you that. Call them up and ask them. Say, hey, if I've got a debt, can I pay the taxes on it? They'll laugh. Yeah, you get paid in debt notes as a decedent. You go to Wells Fargo and ask them about your bank account. See if it doesn't say the decedent's account in the fine print. We don't care about the digital currency. You've already got sovereign dollars already printed. They're ready to go. They're sitting in every armored car warehouse in pallets. And they're just waiting. And they'll go to the bank, they'll pick up all the fiat currency, they'll take that back to the armored car warehouse, they'll put it on a semi-truck, they'll drop it off in New York at the Council of Foreign Relations building and say, here, Because every time we're releasing deposit money over the last few months, the banks are failing because they have to burn all their debit money. For every dollar in deposit money we release, they got to burn a debit dollar. So if you got a bunch of it in your safe, one of these days they might have to come to you and say, we'll give you $1.25 if you'll bring it in. Because they're required to replace dollar for dollar. So as we release this, they have to destroy that. And that's what's bringing the banks down. Has nothing to do at all with the economy. That is SMU. It's shit made up. I mean, drive down the street, go into one of these shopping centers. Do you see anybody not spending money? Not buying gas? Not buying food in the grocery store? Not going to their doctor and their dentist? This is the first time in history banks are failing, and it has nothing to do with the economy. The people are still employed, they're still working, they're still spending everything. Everything they're telling you is an illusion. Go look at the real world and say, has anything changed? No, it all looks the same. Everybody's buying new cars. Cars aren't 10 years old. These cars are 3 years old. You see what I'm saying? This is the first time in history this is happening. And the banks are crashing like crazy. Do you know why Silicon Valley Bank crashed? Because Palo Alto, California has the most billionaires per square mile. And so we released $14 trillion of deposit money in that area. And they got to burn $14 trillion of debt money, and the bank can't survive. So we might as well throw it right in the elite's lap to begin with. How fun is that? Well, that's just the new computer program that recorded everything. A whole lot different. It's released for humanitarian projects, and then as it's spent and it trickles to the banks, trust me, they will see it. Every one of their machines are designed to notice, and the money that's being released right now as deposit money doesn't look much different, but there's, you got the picture of our, show it to me. Well, no, that's not just the deposit money, but that's a small part. Small part. You've heard of the rainbow currency? I hate that name. I just hate that name. That's not what it is. Back in June of 2019, I was in Switzerland when the very first shipping container loaded of our new US dollars were sovereign dollars were printed and placed into a shipping container. They're not transparent. Did I see them? Yes, I did. Do you know some states are issuing their own sovereign dollars now? That's one of Utah's. spendable in Utah. Texas is printing their own too, right now. Yeah. Yeah. What's it say on it? Republic of Texas. Deposit money. On and on and on. Look at the new rainbow currency. We placed the pictures online back in June of 2019. Okay, it's online. You can find it. Look it up. All right. Every bank in the world has deposit accounts. Those accounts, even Jamie Dimon can't open up the deposit account in JP Morgan Chase. And yet that's the bank, that's the account that set up the bank's right under trust to create fiat currency. Without that account, the bank never would have existed in the first place. See, all the money is God's. And he gave it to King Solomon in the form of all the gold and silver in the world. And the descendants of Solomon are the trustees for the benefit of the people of the world. And those have been passed down by trust, through trusts for generation upon generation upon generation. You need to understand this. It's going to be lots of world currencies. Every state can issue it. Every government can issue it. South Africa is way ahead of us right now in deposit money. The president of Kenya called me on the phone and said, David, the Rothschild Bank of Kenya is gone. We're now using deposit money. Sure. And guess what? They're all equal. One deposit Kenya dollar is worth the same as this one Utah dollar I have in my pocket. Dollar for dollar exchange. See, I want you to understand that. When they talk about reset, they're not necessarily talking about the dollar to dollar exchange like you are thinking. Your thinking is off. Understand, everything. You want to volunteer? Come erase this board. Keep it erased for me. I want you to understand something. Go ahead. Eraser's right there. There's some spray right there. Keep the top. Nobody can read the top anyway because it's written this big. And if I stand 5 feet away, I can't read it anymore. Well, maybe. All right. Buzz, I forgot all about you. Where's your wife? She's supposed to run this show. Okay, but I was supposed to have you up here first. Okay, your job is to keep me on schedule because I don't pay attention to time. Okay, all right. So there is a big reason I'm going over this early in this class, because the time is now. Times are changing constantly, and we have to learn what's important for the time and what we have to do. And we have to stop, right? We've got to stop things like what I told you about this morning with the prisons. You got 2,000 women sitting in a prison that was condemned 6 years ago in Texas, and they've been forgot about. How are we going to get them out, you guys? There's only two ways I can think of.
Force.
We go after them so hard with paperwork from every court. Let me tell you what I'm doing with Bonnie, because it goes to this. I'm exposing them. I'm fighting her property dispute case with her ex-husband in the county court right now. She has been disposed by the county court. Do you know what the word disposed in the law means? That means they sent the body to the morgue. There's nothing I can file in her county court case right now because her body's already been sent to the morgue as far as they're concerned. So the 10th Court of Appeals, I've got her appellate case I'm fighting. In the federal district court in Dallas, I'm fighting a habeas case for her. In the 5th Circuit Court in New Orleans, because that's the district we're in, I'm fighting her for her via equity. I know this is hard for you to understand, but via equity based upon her trust equity. Because the county court failed to move into equity in the private and accept her $100 million incontestable, guaranteed full faith and credit bond that I handed the judge, and he wouldn't take it. Otherwise, she would have been out that day. And that is a violation of the United States State Department and the United States Treasury, the fact that he didn't take that right then and there. It's incontestable guarantee bond. That means it's a superior bond. There's no other bond higher, and he refused to take it. In fact, he looked right in our eyes while I was sitting on the witness stand, sitting this close to him and handing it to him. And he looked right at Bonnie and he says, I don't care about the Constitution. I don't care about state statute. I don't care about case law, and I don't care about your bond and your equity. He says, I'm going to do what it is that I want to do. And he sentenced her. Yes. Do you understand? There is no justice right now. Read Isaiah 59. Isaiah 59, especially 14 through 19. Let me paraphrase it for you. That there is no justice, that no man will stand as an intercessor. So God sees that, and he puts on his cloak and his breastplate and his sword, and he stands at the west, and he looks towards the east, and he destroys his enemy in a flood from the coast. Now, depending on which version of the Bible you're looking at, you're going to get some mixed words in here. Okay? Some of them say island. It's not island, it's coast in the Hebrew. So on and on and on. You got to know your history again, because it's been changed in the Bible. And that no man will act as an intercessor and stand. No man can. No attorney can stand up in court and act as an intercessor on the behalf of any living man or woman. Okay? And they're ignoring almost everything I do. And there's a reason that I'm doing it. And there's a reason I'm hitting them all the way around. And I only worked my way up to the 5th Circuit for you guys. I've also got a case in Washington, D.C. at the court of claims. I've got a case with Alito in the Supreme Court of the United States. Her case has been sent to the Provost Marshal General of the state of Texas, who heads up the state. Her case has been sent to the State Department. President Trump knows about her case. I am fighting it on so many beaches with so many weapons, like no attorney firm ever has in their life. And I'm doing it myself because I'm the only one capable of doing it. The only one knowledgeable enough to do it in all these different ways with all these different battles. And it's taken 20 hours out of every day for me. And I still haven't missed a seminar. Don't worry about it. I'm fighting my case too at the same time. There's entire law firms that don't take on this much. And if it wasn't for some help, like Katie, man, I couldn't do it. But she can type faster than me. See? And there's a lot of good people helping me. I've got a judge helping me. I got good friends helping me. I got good friends helping take care of my house and mowing lawns and stuff, feeding chickens and feeding dogs, feeding horses so that I can do this. My focus has been strictly on court cases and paperwork. And every week we're up against a deadline somewhere in one of those courts. But there's a reason I'm doing this in all these courts. Most people, most attorneys, they'd be over at the 10th Court of Appeals in Waco, sitting on their ass waiting until July the 10th when the next deadline hits. I'm not going to wait. Well, I'm waiting for that one. I'm meeting deadlines in other courts. And what I'm doing is exposing them. And when I get done, not only will we have plenty of money in our bank account, because that's just all I've told you about so far is the defense. I want you to know I'm playing offense too. So I'm also suing them in these courts. Since April 10th, I've generated a Rubbermaid container full of paper on just Bonnie and a briefcase full on me. And I got them both at where I'm staying, because that's what I do at night when I'm not in here. I understand the importance of what I'm doing. And people are wondering why it's taken so long. Why isn't Bonnie out of jail? Bonnie knows why she's in there. She knows what she's doing. She knows her role. She knows how many people she's helping while she's there. Now, 2 days ago, she got moved into that maximum security prison, and things got a lot rougher on her. A lot rougher. The only improvement is the food got a little better. At the 3 jails she's been in since April 10th, the food has gotten better each time. Nothing else has. In fact, at her new jail, she doesn't even have her legal documents. She doesn't have her tennis shoes I bought her. She doesn't have her shower shoes I bought her. She doesn't have nothing. They left that all at the last jail and didn't transfer it. You know, when she asked when she's going to get it, you know what they said? Maybe in 8 weeks. The very first thing they did the very first week she's in is they created a CID report. Do you know how they create a CID report and why they do it? They almost always do it during your first week as a prisoner. And they do it to almost all of them. Come here for just a minute. He's going to be Bonnie for a minute. A great big guard walks up and grabs her right here. And he squeezes so hard that she's saying, "You're hurting me, you're hurting me, you're hurting me. Stop, quit hurting me." And then eventually he's squeezing so hard he's leaving 5 bruise marks on her arm. I know, I saw him when I went to visit her, and she showed me her arm. And then she jerked her arm away. The minute she did, he put his hand on the back of her head and pushed her to the ground, threw her to the ground. And then he writes a CID report on her. And then she has to go to a little hearing inside the jail. And with that CID, you can sit down. With that CID report, they took away her commissary till the end of July. There's no contact visitation until November. She's eligible for parole in October, but with a CID report on her record, they'll say, we'll review it again in 6 months, which means March next year. They take away a ton of your privileges. Your visitation rights, whether you can get commissary, whether you can use the phone, whether you can have an extra blanket. And that's what they do when they create a CID report. And you can't help it because it hurt. And if you know me, I told her, give me his name. And if you know Bonnie, she said no. Because she knows what I would have done with that name. She's so hard to deal with. That woman is so righteous. Every day she holds prayer sessions. Every day she wakes up, how can I help someone in prison? And at the same time, she's being treated rougher than any other prisoner in there. And at the same time, all I want to do is not sleep at night. You understand that, right? And the time's coming. But we are going to show, by using a pen, that we've exhausted every remedy at every court with every option that we can show, and I'm going to try and do it as fast as possible, and the wheels of justice turn slow. And trying to keep these courts moving and trying to keep this paperwork generated when you're up against a deadline is next to impossible for an entire law firm, much less me. But it is the only way we're going to expose this in this country. And we're going to show how bad the jails are, how bad the Department of Justice is, how bad our police forces are. Any police officers in this room? Any federal agents? Any judges or any attorneys? Raise your hand. What are you? Police? Thank you for your service. Okay. I mean that. I love our officers in blue, although most of them don't know the law because they didn't train you properly, and it failed to train as a cause of action in federal court, by the way. And I can take your boss into federal court and win for not training you properly. I'd love to, but I'm only one guy. See, this is why we need you. We need you all. I have a police chief in another county in Texas who is an American state national and part of the Republic of Texas who is training all his police force on the right way to be a police officer. And I have another police officer with a different department in the same county as him, a different department, who literally came to Bonnie's trial to observe, and he wore his police uniform. And the police officers in the courtroom in our county kicked him out, intimidated, called his county, put him up on internal affairs investigation. He was put on permanent leave and told by his superiors, go find another job because you're never coming back here again. And he did nothing wrong but go in there to observe what was the injustice taking place. And you know what? You know whose side he's on? Ours. And he wrote an affidavit to that effect, and I'm using it. His affidavit is now at the federal courthouse in Dallas. Okay. There are good police officers out there. A lot of my friends are police officers. And a lot of them are just now, like the rest of the country, waking up and learning that everything they've done their entire career. In fact, I got stopped by the police and I said, hey, do you know how you get paid? He goes, property taxes. And I laughed really hard. And then I showed him how he creates a cause of action that creates a case number, which creates a CUSIP, which creates a bond. And that's how the municipalities get paid, off the bonds. And the bonds are held in the CAFR funds, the Certified Annual Financial Reports. And there's billions of dollars in it. And they only pay you enough to keep you coming to work. What if I told you, I don't know what police force you work for, and you don't have to say, but what if I told you your county or whatever it is you work for has enough money in their CAFR funds to fund the police department for the next 1,000 years with the best equipment that they could possibly buy, but they make you think they're broke and don't have enough money. The reason they do that, it keeps you a slave for them. And it keeps you earning money off the backs of the people in your influence. And every one of the people in your influence is human trafficked by you as part of it. Now that's a hard pill to swallow. And I love you, brother. But it is. Every one of them is trafficking in persons. And that's how I talk to every police officer now. Okay? My God, they're not getting away without learning a lesson from me. So, please remember that. This is how we're going to change this country. You want it changed? That's right. That's right. Yeah. Malta.
I wanted to thank him because to me, since I was born in a communist country, in Romania, I left Romania in 1999 and I moved to Malta. And Malta was very different at the beginning, until it's been taken over. And I didn't know that there are people like him to fight for freedom. And in 2019, I have seen a bit of something about DLS Strait, and I said, who's this guy? What is he talking about it? And then in 2020, I start to see first his
May I
seminaries.
have an update, please? Question
And
mark.
from that time, I watched and I looked to all his videos. And I said, one day I have to go there. And today I am here to give you witness that with him, you the Americans, okay, you may have ancestors which they came here, yet you, the Americans, you are going to change the world. And David Lester Strait is at the top. If you don't believe me, you're going to see it. Okay, the presidents, who are the presidents? He said that they are put over there, they are not elected, they are selected. And this is I learned from him, from his videos. And I thank God and thank you that you exist and you follow him. Now I talk too much.
Okay, so it's about 15 minutes till. I think it's a good time to take a break.
Yeah, because I don't think I can talk now.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have my amazing husband come up and talk about some health technologies that we have here for you guys this weekend. And so without further ado, let's bring Dr. Buzz to the front.
Oh my goodness. Awesome, awesome, awesome. This amazing man right here. Hey guys, I'm Buzz. Buzz Thompson, by the way. My company's called Life Armor. We've done this a lot, and I rarely say the name of our company or our website, so I'm going to say that first. It's lifearmorlabs.com. LifeArmorLabs.com. Life Armor Labs. Real quick story. I met David Strait. I didn't know who this guy was. Anyways, somehow I was connected with someone in his office, and that wonderful person is going to be here this weekend. And I had to send her something, and she said, oh, by the way, I'm in the office with David Lester Strait. Have you ever heard of him? And I said, that's funny. I just saw a video of his 2 days ago. And I said, he's either totally full of it or he's not long for this place. And but I knew he had the heart of a warrior and a patriot. And I said, so when I shipped this stuff that I shipped to this person, I threw in a bracelet. I didn't have any business cards. We had just acquired the worldwide rights to a very unique technology that had been in Japan for 30 years. It had never been in the United States. I believe this technology is a divine gift in what it does. It gives your body resources to resist external stressors like EMF, Wi-Fi, 5G, things like that. And I knew that this person could benefit from support. And so I sent a bracelet in with the package. And about 6 months later, at the urging of a very prophetic friend of mine, he says, I think you're supposed to go to a meeting. And I went to a meeting, and I walked in the door, and Bonnie greeted me, Bonnie Strait, and she said, would you like to meet my husband? Well, I have no idea who her husband is at the time. And she says, honey, honey, and he turns around, and she says, this is Buzz. And as we shake hands, I notice he's wearing the bracelet that I had sent 6 months earlier. And I also noticed that it looked like he had worn the heck out of it, like he'd done construction work or dug ditches or something. Whatever he does, it was very, very used. And I said, oh, by the way, as I'm shaking his hand, I said, I'm that guy. And he said, we need to talk. And I said, how do you know what this does? And he says, I'm very sensitive to energy. And he said, but more importantly, I know what they're doing to us. Humanity needs this. And I'm kind of awestruck at the time, and we ended up spending the next couple hours together before I gave a presentation on 5G, EMF, that kind of thing. So, everything electrical has a field around it. I don't know if you guys remember that from high school, but everything electrical has a field, and everything magnetic has a field around it. And we are electromagnetic beings on an electromagnetic planet. It defies logic that we would not also have an electromagnetic field around us. We do, and on our table back there, there's a picture of what that field looks like. A person was literally hooked up head to toe with electrodes, and the depiction of their field was on the left. Well, friends, we were designed to thrive in nature, and this field that we have was probably not designed to protect us from the amount of bombardment that we're getting in today's toxic tech environment. Because I don't have one with me, but y'all all probably have cell phones, Wi-Fi, 5G towers, all kinds of stuff around here that's just slicing right through us and interfering with cell-to-cell communication. This very unique technology that we have was designed, I'm not going to say too much about how it works, what it's designed to, but it enhances your body's bioenergetic field in a very unique way that your body recognizes and appreciates. And when this technology comes into your field is enhanced to such a point that external waveforms become impervious to your field. And the big thing about that is right now when your body perceives that it's under attack, your body goes into what's called fight or flight, because your body says, I'm being attacked, I'm being attacked, I'm being attacked. But just like a toxic, abusive relationship, we don't leave. It's too good, I'm not going to quit my phone. So we just learn to live under attack. And as long as your body perceives it's under attack, it's not producing regenerative stem cells. That's an interesting thing. But more than that, your body is producing stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. We're burning ourselves out every single day. We're gaining weight. We're living on sugar rushes and other kinds of stuff. We're burning ourselves out. So when you can boost your body's bioenergetic field, your body says we're not under attack. It downregulates the adrenaline, downregulates the cortisol. You get to chill. Your body starts preparing regenerative stem cells again from your own body. You see, when your body perceives it's under attack, your stem cell factory says, close down and tell the bombers stop bombing. But they don't stop. And we're just being burnt out. So this technology gives your body strength over stress, some pretty incredible things. David likes to do some demonstrations. Can we do one for somebody real quick before lunch? Why don't you do it? You do a better job. I do it, but David's really good at this.
So, give me a great big guy. All right, you're not that big, but come on.
There we go.
Here's a big guy too. Come on up. We'll do two.
So as we have technologies for your cell phone, for your automobile, for your house, the air technology that's back there. In fact, would you turn the air off, please, Sophia? Because that technology back there, we've learned that when David does his events, sometimes there's interesting things that go on energetically. And that device is emitting very specific information via waveform that's actually bio-optimizing and protecting us all.
Okay, you don't have any tech on, right? No. All right. Stand with your feet together. He is a big guy. Stand with your feet together.
Totally
Put right together.
Totally together. Yeah.
Okay? Now hold your hands like this. I don't want you to arm curl me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down, straight down towards the floor, and see how many pounds of pressure it takes to pull him off balance. And I've done this with NFL football players from the Dallas Cowboys. 3 of them came to my office at one time. And see, it doesn't take much. It pulls you right off balance, right? Yeah. Maybe 10, 15 pounds of pressure. Hold that hand.
I take 5,000 IUs every single day.
Maybe 20 pounds. It almost doubled the weight. And he can feel it.
So what's happening is
Whether
he's
you
going
can
from
see it or
4
not.
cylinders to 6 cylinders to 8 cylinders as far as power goes. Okay? Keep your arms straight so you're sort of balanced on each side. Yeah?
Okay.
We call this stacking. The more you have, the larger your field and strength becomes.
You feel the difference?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is energy. This is every single person, every single time, instantly.
And I can't get these two apart, so we're going to... You ready? Put your feet together. I want the same. Ready? I can just about pick myself up off the ground.
Did you notice the difference?
No, there's a big difference.
That's just a few pieces of jewelry.
But what's happening is your body is being protected from external stressors, and you're literally taking your power back. See, it helps you have your freedom, but if you don't have your health, or you have your health but you don't have your freedom, these two things go together, and this is something you can do right away to take your power back.
Okay, now,
Protect yourself.
now
from
one
the
more
evils
time.
of stuff. Okay. Hold on, one more time. Turn on the machine, turn on the air machine stuff.
Okay. Yeah, whether you guys know it or not, you've all been helped while you've been here by that machine running. That's just that machine.
So guys, one of the things I want to let you know is your body, when you don't have somebody pushing down on you, you have all these extra resources. And your body uses its innate intelligence to start working on things, because it's like someday I'll get to cleaning out the garage when I have time and I have energy. What's that? And it's like your body now has time and energy. So it starts working on a bunch of back burner
Put
stuff
your feet together.
automatically with all these extra
Every time,
resources.
just keep your feet like that. Okay, ready? No kidding. I've known this guy for a while, and he's been one of the hardest on me on the telephone of anyone in years.
We got to take down that New World Order corrupt regime.
He tried to disprove me more than anybody else, I think. And here he is.
Yes,
You ready? Yeah, that's quite a bit more. What was that? Yeah, well, keep waiting. Portray, ready?
And he's doing the exact same thing every single time.
Turn the machine off. Yeah, we should have done that. That's probably why.
Nobody's pulling me back that way.
A lot more. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
now hand it back, do it again.
See the difference.
There's something going on there. So here's what happens. The very first time, thank you, David. The
Well-
very first time I experienced this, I had a shoulder that was really sore, and anyway, I went to a doc friend of mine, and I said, can you hook me up? I lost 20 pounds, and I can now lift my arm and do things that I couldn't do before, and I didn't understand bioenergetics. So we have a whole section of energy, how our body works, that's not addressed in anything. So I get hooked up to heart rate variability equipment, 5 minutes between these two tests, and you can come back and you can see it. But literally my stress index, now I'm seated at a table, big screen TV, 3 computers, and the router is under the desk here at the doctor's office. And my stress score should have been in the 10 to 100 range, and my stress score was off the charts at 132. Just a normal guy sitting there being hooked up to heart rate variability equipment, measuring this. I put on a bracelet. They test me again. It went to 60. From 132 off the charts, stress-wise, went to 60. And I'm going to tell you what's really important about this, because in one of the analysis, they said that I was in the high-risk category for a cardiac event, stroke or heart attack. Yeah, I'm not going to go there, actually. But anyway, my system's energy resources should have been 2545 to 4545. My energy was 1319. So my stress was off the charts high, and my energy resources to run the body of me were below the bottom marker. 5 minutes between tests, my stress went from 132 to 60, and my energy went from 1319 to 3500.
And to get the rest of the story, you can come back to Buzz's booth and he'll show you the rest of the story.
And I had a
Because
10-year
right now we're going to talk about the
reduction in my
Regen
biologic age. Blessings, guys.
No,
Have a
but
great
you're going
lunch.
to talk about the Regenu for just
Oh,
a
I'm sorry,
second.
really, really quick. We do have another bioenergetic technology that does something very cool. It does an assessment of what's going on with your body, and then it applies a protocol that addresses the things that were found in that assessment. I'm choosing my words very carefully. Anyone who would like to receive a complimentary assessment of what's going on, there's a little office back there, a little private room, and we'll be happy to do that. It only takes 2 minutes for the assessment, and then there's some options available if you would like us to help you address those things. So we're going to run off to lunch, but for assessment and addressment is back there. Blessings. Thank you, David, for all you do. God bless you.
Okay, so it is time for lunch. We're going to take about an hour and a half. We're going to come back at 2:30. I need to ask a big favor of all of you guys. This man up here has worked tirelessly hard this morning. I need you to let him go sit down and eat his lunch, go to the bathroom, and please don't go and swarm him asking questions. There will be plenty of time for him to do that, but he needs to get regenerated, rejuvenated so he can go through this afternoon. So everybody go take a lunch break, come back at 2:30, and thanks for being here.